today's bigger slice of business discussion is a continuance from last week. We started talking about the 5 steps to a better mailing list. And I think the first couple of items I'll quickly, rehash here for a second, and then we'll go on. So the first time we talked about was, who are our best customers? And we said you should go back to your existing customers list and review customers and see which ones you like to work with, and go and get that list and make them into your primary customer favorite list, whatever you want to call it, in your CRM. And then the next piece was to take that list and survey them, find out what they like about your services, even find out how did they find out about you, ask about other information, learn what wowed them to turn around and buy from you. I think those are really important things to work on. Phil has always encouraged me, as well as others that he works with in sales, to do that, right, Phil?
Yeah, it's a great way to give feedback as to why people do business with you. We can guess, but often if we assume things or presume things, often we're not right. And even if we are right, it doesn't hurt to hear it from the clients themselves. It reminds me of a very large success story, Zappos. And one of the things that they do, and would help them grow their brand, was that they would actually do a check-in, and they would do a survey, real simple, something along the lines of between 1 and 10, where would you rate your experience? And if it's less than a 10, what do we need to do to get it from wherever it was, like a 7 to a 10? Real simple. It doesn't have to be any more difficult than that.
Right. I mean, if you send out a survey, you don't want to send out one with 20 questions.
No.
You want to make it simple, quick. And one other way to ongoing is to have a survey where after they've bought something from you, they've been using it for a while, like within the first week, send out a survey. Hey, what do you think of it? How you doing with it? Do you need any help? What do you find is the best thing that it's done for you? Yeah. And then that starts giving you ongoing feedback when you send it to the individual customers as they buy. So the next things in our list of the top 5 is fine-tune my list characteristics. So after you've done a survey, you go back and review it, of course. And you'll find that maybe, as we started talking about in the beginning, which was last week, about also just finding a list and sending them out, mailing to them, emailing to them. The old, I think I'll fly in an airplane above the city of Boston or Calgary, and with a big burlap bag, and slit it open and drop postcards and hope it hits somebody in the head that wants to buy. That's not the way to work on a list, and it's a waste of money. So
and you could be liable. You might, if you hit them on the head too hard.
This is true. Or dent somebody's car. I mean,
then
or bust a window of in the house.
Yeah.
Oh, it must have been one heavy card.
Oh, it was that heavy card stock. Yeah.
Yes. Well, you have to have good card stock to do that.
Yeah.
All right. So anyways, once you go through this, you'll get a better feel for why they bought your products and services. Now you can fine-tune the type of people you're looking for. And once you have not only the information about what were their pain points, how did you solve their pain points, you also may have some demographics as the type of businesses or the type of individuals that you sell to, who are the best, and maybe you get a little bit of an idea of their demographics. And that's going to help you to fine-tune a list. So if you're going to order a list, instead of ordering a general list, now you can go in and filter down. In fact, sometimes I find the best way to get a list is I try it online, and, you know, one time I wanted to find plumbers in the state of Massachusetts. And I went through the list, told I wanted a certain dollar value, wanted headquarters, wanted this, that, the other thing. I ended up with like 18 plumbers. I went, there's something wrong with this. So I ended up picking up the phone. It doesn't cost anymore. And I called the list company, and I got a salesperson on the phone. And by the time I was done, I had 683 companies that I could call. Okay. Or
That's a
I could
slight
mail it to.
improvement over 18, isn't it?
It is. So sometimes it pays to pick up the phone and deal with them direct. And so now I had a really accurate, tight list of people based on my filters, and I told them what I wanted, and that's how I was able to then target them. So, all right, that's really where you want to go. You want to just make sure you're getting a good list. And yes, if you buy less than 1,000 names or less than 5,000 names, you're going to be paying a little more. But you know what? Paying a little more is worth it, because now you've got who you really want to target. So,
yeah, and you're paying a little more per entry, right?
right.
That's what you mean. That's what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And one of the other things, just for clarity, I think it's pretty clear now that you've gone through it. And I was looking at when you were talking about ordering the list, I thought, oh, does he mean getting a list or putting it in order? And obviously you mean getting a list, because there's list brokers out there that you can buy a list from. And what you just stated in here is be careful about the list. Make sure the list has got the target audience that you want. So it's really crucial to identify who's your ideal target audience, who you want to serve. So that when you write your letter, your email, or postcard, that the message resonates with the target audience. And a great place to start is to have a list that makes sense to get what you're sending out.
Right.
And at some point in time, there will be order to your list, because some people you send it out to will be more receptive, and some will be need nurturing. So there would be an ongoing drip campaign or nurturing campaign, which you could leverage the ordering of the list. Now, that ordering is putting it in order.
Right. Now, there are times, and this was in step number 5 here, there are times when you might order a list. We'll call it a services industry list, where you got plumbers, electricians, HVAC people, etc. So yes, that is a bigger list, and it will be a little, the cost per contact is a little bit less. But, that's where you take that list and you segment it into those industries before you send out any materials. The other thing too, I should bring up about lists, is if you buy a list that guarantees you email addresses, you're heading into trouble. So you don't want to use those email lists. I've actually had a client that did that and got a letter from a lawyer of someone that was in the list, and demanding that they be deleted from the email list, even though it was sent out through an email service where they could opt out. He was threatened. He said, if you ever send me another one, I'm going to sue you. And that's like, Canada has laws, United States, Europe has laws, so you have to be careful. But there's a workaround. And the workaround is when you send out the material to them, you want them to go to a website page where they fill in a form and they ask for a PDF or something, which we call a call to action. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So if we're getting a list from somebody, or when we look at this title, 5 Steps to Better Mailing, there's a snail mail postage that we're all familiar with, and there's email
Right.
that we're talking about. And how do we? I just want to make sure we don't confuse people at this stage, because you said if you get a list that has emails on it, don't send them to them. But how do you get them to go to a website if you can't send them an email? What are your thoughts around that?
Well, it's funny you happen to ask that question. So the first thing that I would do, since basically I would have those names, those contacts in my CRM. And I would, again, if it was a multiple industry list, I would break them down by industry. I would then send by snail mail a letter, okay? Not a postcard, a letter. And it could say something on the inside, on the outside of the letter. It could say, something to attract them to make sure that they open it. But just a number 10 letter. And in there, you put together information that are pain points that you can resolve for them, bringing them out. Do you experience this? Do you have that? Do you have this? Is this hurting you every day? Does this keep you up at night? And when you do that, then in there, there's an offer. Let me give you the 7 steps to how to work around this, okay, or to help you out. Now, doing that will help your business, will help them understand what you're asking for. And so basically, what you do is you have a landing page. Now, if I have a landing page for HVACs, one for electricians and one to plumbers, the letter could be almost the same, but they all go to a different landing page.
So is the landing page sent in the envelope?
I'm sorry, what?
Is the landing page sent in the envelope?
The landing page is typed in the envelope and typed in the letter, okay, telling them to go to HTTPS HVAC dot blah blah. Okay.
Right. So there's a link you're inviting them to go to in the letter.
Right. Because
okay,
you can't.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Right. So I'm sorry if I wasn't clear.
No, no worries.
So now you have that link in the letter, and the idea is to attract them to it. The other thing. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just agreeing. Right.
Okay. The other thing is now you've sent the letter. Let's just say you sent it on Monday. So they get it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Basically, then at that point, you can follow up in a week or two, week and a half, maybe at the most, with a postcard and reminding them, hey, and we have this offer, and you tell them a little more about the pain points again. And I'm being very, generic here. I don't have an exact example to go through in all the detail on this call, on this live feed. But basically, that's what you would do. The other thing is, in your CRM, when you've been sending out these letters, you have a workflow. The letter goes out on Monday. A week later, the postcard goes out on a Monday. And a week later, maybe, you have scheduled a task. And that task is to pick up the phone and start making phone calls. Now, depending on if you're doing it by yourself, you probably only want to send out no more than 25 to 50 names in a week, because you need to make phone calls to that on that week. If you have a sales team, obviously that's different. So now you can send it to bigger lists and you can have them make the phone calls, okay? And they're going to follow up and say, we sent you a letter, we're trying to get a hold of you, find out, do you have these challenges, et cetera, et cetera. And as they start working through it, now they can be changed over once they become a customer, in the CRM to a live customer if they've bought a product or service. If you don't have a sales team and you don't have a lot of time to make a phone call, I would adjust the task list. I would still do 25. It would be good to do at least 25 a week. That's not that hard when you do Monday through Friday. And the other thing is basically you could then schedule a third mailing. Maybe schedule that one out 2 to 3 weeks away, because you hit them twice right away. You've left them at least a message on the third week. And then maybe week 5 or 6, you send out another postcard. Or you could do it a little bit different. Instead of a postcard, send out a single sheet, double-sided print, newsletter style sales sheet. Things about tips that they could use in their industry or help them with their pain points, and then move on from there. But the idea is always to get them to come back to sign up online to get their email list, get them in the email list.
So you've gone down a rabbit hole. I think it'd be a great topic for another call. I'm going to bring you back to what this topic is. It's segmenting the mail list. You went in how to create a marketing campaign, which is something a CRM system can do for you as well. And it's one way to leverage sort of things. It's just this guy, Joe, knows so much about all of this stuff. He can talk about anything just like any rabbit hole. Anyway, let's get back to segmenting the mail list. And I'd asked you a question about the snail mail versus the non-snail mail, which is email. And a thought was going through my head, because you said, with caution, be careful how you get your email addresses. And I totally agree with you, because all the different countries have different laws, and you can get in financially a lot of difficulty there if somebody wants to come back and sue you, or if you break the code of that particular country when you're doing your marketing. So you could invite them by snail mail to opt in and come to a LinkedIn, or come to a link where they would opt in and then get whatever it is you're offering, landing page, etc. Excuse me. Or the other thing you can do is you could leverage, and again, we're getting off the topic of segmenting the mail list, but just for shits and giggles, you could use social media. And like we do here, we invite you to come to Bigger Slice of Business group. There's a couple of questions that you ask, that we ask you. You don't ask us, but you could ask us questions. But initially, there's about 3 questions. And one of those questions is going to be your email address. And the reason we do that is we're building our community to provide you with content. And at any time, you can opt out once you're in our system. If you don't want to get the content, it's not of value to you, you can opt out, you won't get it anymore. I'm thinking, though, it's a good idea to stop in and check out Joe's brilliant content around CRM stuff and see if it works for you. He's an expert in a variety of different CRM systems. We're not here to plug any particular one. We just want to get people using a CRM, because if you systematize your business, you're franchising, essentially. You're becoming the McDonald's of your own business by putting in systems that will help you get more stuff done. On average, I think we've heard it's as many as 17 touches before there's any transaction that happens with people. And who in the world's got time to do 17 touches with a mass list? And who knows when people are ready to take on your services, right, Joe?
That's right. Just because you've got them and they're watching, in this case, our Bigger Slice of Business live broadcast, they may not need me right now, or you for the next month or two, and then all of a sudden, I got to talk to Phil or Joe about this, and I've got to talk to them about the services. So it's part of that whole, across the board, buyer's journey. And you start sending out information to them. You're consistently around, and then one day they're going to raise their hand when they need you. So.
Exactly. Well, we've touched on all 5 areas and a little bit of more some because of your wealth of knowledge. So we're going to do this again next week, right?
We certainly are, and then we're gonna do it next week and talk about something else. And in the meantime, what I would like to offer people today is that reach out to me, and we will talk about how to build your list. I will give them a free 30-minute call. So,
how do they reach out to you?
Right here on the Bigger Slice of Business. Just look me up and post in there that they're interested right from this broadcast, and I'll reach back out to them and set up a time.
Okay, and if they didn't get this broadcast and they wanted to share it with somebody, they can do that by
sending them the link to the Bigger Slice of Business on Facebook, and tell them to sign up and get in and review this broadcast and then fill out the information that they would like to be reached to have a call.
Excellent. So until next week, like that TV show, it comes from the Boston area. I'm not going to say their name, but until next week, my name's Phil Jilks, aka Coach Phil, and
I'm Joe Norcott, the CRM pro, and so next week we'll have another discussion here on Thursday. Look forward to seeing you online. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Joe.